Welcome to Tekedia Daily. I'm Ndubuisi Ekekwe. Our topic today is the Elumelu way. Lessons for African entrepreneurs. Mr. Tony Elumelu is a Lagos banker. He grew up in a middle-class family, went to university education in Nigeria. He came to Lagos, just like perhaps every other young man in his time. But out of dedication, vision, and discipline, he has become an iconic businessman and a legendary banker and investor, respected not just in Africa, but around the world. He has made a mark for his continent and has brought significant progress, reputational validity to our country, Nigeria, and he continues to do more. He is made in Africa because all his careers, largely, they have been in Africa. He's the father of African capitalism, a philosophy that believes that private sector capital can be a force for good. We are deployed with patience, with vigor, with efficiency, and with ethical frameworks to serve all stakeholders, not just necessary for those that can benefit financially. You know, when you look at the mind of a man, you can see that very few people can have that mindset, that they have succeeded and they also want other people to succeed. And this is the most exciting aspect of Mr. Tony Elumelu. He has emerged as one of the finest philanthropists of his time in Africa. He invented a new model, a typical African model of giving, empowering people over the vicious cycle of dependency that we have all come to experience in the International AIDS Program. And this invention, he pioneered through the Tony Elumelu Entrepreneurship Program. It's all about institutionalizing luck at scale for people that can dream, for people that can imagine, for people that can just think and take action, for people that can do and not just they do that, they think tanks. It's a very fascinating thing that in our country, we have gotten legends like Mr. Elumelu, Dangote, Jim Ovia. But today, I will just be taking and trying to extrapolate from what I have read about him, from what I have studied about him, what I call the Elumelu way, and what African entrepreneurs can learn from these African sons. The first thing I want to say is that he is a risk taker. You know, he had a very great job in Lagos. And one day he saw an opportunity that a failing bank, Crystal Bank, was available. He took action, brought a group of friends, they raised capital, they went after that bank. And then they transformed that bank into Standard Trust Bank. And you can also see a man with a vision. Otherwise, how could it have been possible? The banking sector with First Bank of Nigeria, the old Afribank, Union Bank, for somebody to think a new bank was necessary. Because he had a vision. He knew that with great quality, excellent service, he could build a highly differentiated product or service, and he could earn his market share. What we can learn here is that he has this long-term perspective, that quality service, superior service can always help him grow. And this is not just going to happen overnight. So having that long-term perspective is very critical. And when he has that vision that he could build an iconic financial institution, he has a strategy. And according to him, when he was in Standard Trust Bank, he developed three core objectives strategy. When he Standard Trust Bank now transmuted into United Bank of Africa, he also had three. You look at the brand. How can you build a very strong brand? How can you grow to capture market share? And how can you have a regional influence? And if you look at what is happening and what has happened in United Bank of Africa, you see that it is a brand that is known across the continent and beyond. United Bank of Africa has a business office, a branch in United States, New York, United Kingdom, in London, and the European Union in Paris. And across Africa, in more than at least 20 countries, the flag of Nigeria is being flown through United Bank of Africa. It's also one of the top tier banks in Nigeria, and it has a strong influence in the African region. It has become Africa's global bank, and one that when you land in Nairobi International Airport, Jomo Kenyatta International Airport, you could say that this bank has a heritage from my country. And he has done this thing by bringing some of the brightest people around him. He hires the right people. People with core competence, domain expertise that complements the areas he does not have the capacity. And this is very important for us as entrepreneurs, that it is not just having a vision, it's actually having the ability to execute that vision that counts. And for you to do that, you need to get the right people around yourself. And Mr. Elumelu, if you look through what he has done, you could see that he is a man that he tests, he validates, and he scales. In other words, he could start small, but he knows that once he can validate what he's doing, even though it may be small, that he can have that reputational validation from people, from his partners, for him to now scale his vision. You know, STB might have started small, but FCD has morphed to become a very huge financial institution. He must have raised capital with partners, but he was able to test his business model, test his hypothesis in the market, and he saw himself, he validated them, and then people came in and said, man, scale this thing. And this means that you, as an African entrepreneur, you can't just grow overnight. You know, a week ago, somebody was asking me, can you give me a contact because I needed to raise $10 million? This is a guy who has not necessarily raised even $100,000. Was looking hard to raise $10 million. It doesn't work that way, people. You need to learn from these legends and icons to see that they did not just get where they are today just by falling into an ocean of cash. They tested, they validated, and they scaled. And he's also a guy you have to respect. He's a man of confidence. He's a man that has this boldness. Otherwise, how will you have been less than 34 years to think that you can be a founding CEO of a bank in Nigeria? I mean, for me, that is certainly the biggest thing he has ever done. Because the kind of cultural insights we have in Nigeria, at least in the 1990s, people may not have taken him serious. Because you needed to have a gray hair, you needed to be in your 50s before you can be a bank CEO. But see at these young people. He must have gathered himself, young people, and they were to run a bank. And he was leading them at the age of 33. That is iconic. And that is also something that young people that are coming up can anchor. That your age may not necessarily be the barrier. But it's the way you have put forward a business plan, a business model, and an execution strategy that may be holding you back. He's open-minded. He told a story how the UBA in New York was having an issue, and he sent somebody from Nigeria to go to United Bank for Africa in New York to fix it. This is a very powerful lesson that there can be great talents right there in Africa, and right there in Nigeria, and right there anywhere in Kenya, in Nairobi, or anywhere. It does not necessarily mean that the guys outside the continent are always better. So the Elumelu way is you have to build a brand. Of course, UB has a brand, and Mr. Elumelu also has a brand. He's an icon himself. He's a brand. And it's very critical as entrepreneurs, we have to have that consciousness that people consistently judge us. And that can also affect our relationship and partnership in the business world. But I want to say something that even as he has found the success, he remembers there are other stakeholders that are not directly participating in the balance sheet. He's been a man who believes so much in corporate social responsibility. He's a man that thinks abroad, broadly, looking at the construct that besides the financials, it can provide employment opportunity for people, the social good for the society, the environment where he does business. And of course, through the Tony Elumelu Foundation, he has set a standard in how a new generation of African entrepreneurs could actually be built. You know, as an individual, I have benefited significantly from him because I've learned so much, not necessarily just by meeting him as a man, but actually by reading, by also spending time watching some of the videos where he had actually maybe contributed as a panelist or actually made a presentation. Because you need to see how these legends, how they think, for you to actually test what you are thinking. Because I tell you something, where they have been, you don't run into such by luck. So I just want us to take this thing as entrepreneurs, especially the one that has to do with testing, validation, and scaling. You need to take action and start today. You need to validate that, and that is when that capital can come. Our problems may not necessarily be that we do not have capital in Africa. Our problem is that we have not gotten something we can test and validate so that people can come and help us to scale that idea. I just hope today that you have learned something. And I ask you, spend some time reading some of these icons across the African continent like Mr. Elumelu. You could learn a lot of things, some of the ideas they have picked across. I'm Ndubuisi Ekekwe. You are just following up with Tekedia Daily. Thank you very much.